Things I Wish I'd Known Before We Got Married by Gary Chapman. Picture a young guy completely swept off his feet by love. When he's around his fiancée Carolyn, the world just melts away. Every kiss feels like floating through the clouds. Seeing her after being apart literally gives him goosebumps. He's obsessed with everything about her, her smile, her voice, the way she moves. He's so far gone that he actually volunteers to paint her mother's entire house. Yeah, that's the level we're talking about here. In their minds, they've got it all figured out. They're in love, and that love is going to carry them through anything life throws their way. Simple, right? Well, fast forward 6 months past their wedding, and they're both completely miserable. More miserable than either thought possible. Those euphoric feelings? Gone. Replaced by hurt, anger, disappointment, and resentment that seemed to come out of nowhere. The dream had crashed hard into reality, leaving them both wondering what the heck just happened. That young man was Gary Chapman, who would eventually become world famous for writing the 5 love languages. And that painful, eye-opening experience became the spark for one of the most practical marriage preparation books ever written. Things I Wish I'd Known Before We Got Married. Drawing from over 35 years of counseling thousands of couples, Chapman came to realize something crucial. His own mistake was the exact same one millions of people make every single year. We obsess over planning the wedding, the dress, the flowers, the perfect venue, but completely neglect planning the actual marriage. We focus on a party that lasts a few hours while ignoring the partnership that's supposed to last forever. This isn't just another fluffy relationship book. It's a roadmap packed with hard-earned truths that can save you years of heartache and confusion. Chapman wrote this because he genuinely believes most marital struggles don't have to happen. They're the result of not preparing, of failing to learn the basic skills you need to actually work as a team. Today, we're going to walk through that roadmap together. By the end, you'll understand the 12 foundational secrets to building a marriage that doesn't just survive, but actually thrives. You'll discover why being in love isn't nearly enough, how to handle disagreements without turning them into battles, and why understanding your partner's personality might be one of the most powerful tools you'll ever have. This is wisdom that can transform a hopeful dream into a beautiful, lifelong reality. So let's dive in. Let's kick things off with the biggest myth of them all. The one fueling countless romantic movies, love songs, and daydreams. It's the idea that being in love is the rock-solid foundation for a successful marriage. Gary Chapman, speaking from years of watching this belief wreck relationships, tells us this might actually be the most dangerous myth in our entire culture. He calls that initial, all-consuming, can't eat, can't sleep feeling the tingles. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The butterflies doing backflips in your stomach. Those obsessive thoughts where you can't concentrate on anything else. Your partner seems absolutely perfect, completely flawless, the most incredible person who's ever walked the planet. When you're in this state, driving 500 miles for a weekend together doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It feels like pure joy. Chapman isn't saying the tingles are bad. They're wonderful, actually. They're like the cherry on top of an ice cream sundae. But here's the thing. You can't survive on just the cherry. The problem? This obsessive head-over-heels state is temporary. Research shows this romantic obsession typically lasts about 2 years on average. Some people get a bit more time, others a bit less. But eventually, everyone comes down from that emotional high. And when reality kicks in, everything shifts. Those cute little quirks you barely noticed suddenly become major annoyances. The person who seemed perfect now has flaws you can't ignore. You find yourself fighting with the very person you once thought could do no wrong. This is when so many couples panic and think, oh no, we married the wrong person. The love is dead. But Chapman argues this isn't the end of love. It's actually the beginning of a choice. This is where real love, intentional love, starts. He breaks romantic love down into two distinct stages. Stage 1 is the in-love experience. It's effortless, running on pure instinct and emotion, zero work required. Stage 2 is the intentional stage. This is where love becomes a verb, an action you choose. It's consciously deciding to act in loving ways, to serve, to understand, and to connect with your partner, even when those euphoric feelings aren't there pushing you along. And this, he says, is where the real work and the real reward of marriage happens. So how do we navigate this shift from stage 1 to stage 2? How do we keep love alive when the tingles fade? This is where Chapman's most famous discovery comes in, the 5 love languages. Through years of counseling, he noticed a pattern. When someone said, "I feel like my spouse doesn't love me," they were almost always complaining about a specific unmet need. These complaints fell into 5 distinct categories, which became the 5 love languages. Just like we all speak a native language, we all have a primary love language. It's how we naturally receive and understand love. The problem is, we tend to speak our own language to our partner, assuming it's universal. But if their language is different, all our loving efforts can completely miss the mark. The 5 love languages are: first, words of affirmation. For these folks, words are everything. They feel loved through compliments, encouragement, and kind words. Things like, "You look incredible today," "I really appreciate what you did," or "I'm so proud of you," fill up their emotional tank. On the flip side, harsh or critical words can absolutely devastate them. Second, acts of service. For these people, actions genuinely speak louder than words. They feel loved when you do things for them. Washing the dishes, taking out the trash, running an errand, fixing something that's broken. For them, helpful actions are love made visible. Laziness or refusing to help out makes them feel completely unloved. Third is receiving gifts. This isn't about being materialistic. For someone with this language, a gift is a physical symbol that says, "You were on my mind." The price tag matters way less than the thought behind it. Could be a wildflower from the garden or a simple candy bar. But forgetting a birthday or giving a thoughtless gift, that really hurts. Fourth is quality time. This language is all about undivided attention. It means putting your phone down, turning off the TV, and truly being present. Actually listening and connecting. For someone whose language is quality time, distractions, canceled plans, or feeling ignored can make them feel completely alone, even when you're sitting right next to them. And fifth is physical touch. This goes way beyond just sex. It's holding hands, hugs, a pat on the back, or just brushing their arm as you walk by. For people with this language, appropriate physical touch communicates warmth, safety, and love. Neglect or absence of touch makes them feel isolated and unloved. Chapman discovered it's actually rare for a husband and wife to share the same primary love language. This explains why a husband might be working like crazy around the house, speaking acts of service, while his wife feels completely unloved because he never tells her she's beautiful. She's speaking words of affirmation. He's trying hard, but she's just not receiving the message. Learning to speak your partner's primary love language is the key to keeping emotional love alive. It's the fundamental skill of Stage 2 love. It takes effort. It requires stepping outside your comfort zone and choosing to love your partner in the way they actually need to be loved. This, Chapman says, is the secret to lasting love. But understanding how to express love is only part of the equation. We also need to understand the actual people we're loving. And to do that, we need to look at where they came from. This brings us to a truth many of us try to ignore. The old sayings, like mother, like daughter, and like father, like son, aren't just cliches. Chapman isn't saying your partner will become an exact clone of their same-sex parent. But he is saying we're all profoundly shaped by the homes we grew up in. How our parents communicated, handled conflict, showed affection, and managed daily life becomes our normal. It's the unconscious blueprint we carry into our own relationships. If her mother constantly interrupted her father to correct his stories, don't be shocked if your wife does the same to you. If his father walked out during arguments, he'll likely see that as a normal conflict response. If her parents were affectionate and held hands, she'll probably expect that kind of physical touch. If his parents were quiet and reserved, he might feel uncomfortable with public displays of affection. These patterns run deep. We often don't even recognize them as patterns. They're just how things are. This is why Chapman strongly encourages couples to spend serious time with each other's families before marriage. Pay attention. How do they treat each other? How do they talk? How do they handle stress? You're likely getting a preview of your future. This becomes especially critical when there are destructive patterns in the family: abuse, addiction, or emotional neglect. Chapman is clear. You're not destined to repeat your parents' mistakes, but change doesn't happen automatically. It requires conscious awareness and intentional effort. If the son of an abusive father doesn't take specific steps to understand the cycle and learn healthy anger management, he's at serious risk of repeating it. Same goes for any negative pattern. The key is bringing these observations into the open while you're dating. If something in your partner's family concerns you, now is the time to talk about it. Ask questions like, "I noticed your parents handle disagreements this way. How do you feel about that? How do you want us to be different?" This isn't about criticizing their family. It's about understanding the model that shaped the person you love, and consciously deciding together what kind of model you want to create for your own family. Ignoring this, believing your love will magically erase decades of programming, is setting yourself up for a world of surprises and conflicts down the road. And speaking of conflict, it's inevitable. Chapman wishes someone had told him that simple truth. No married couples exist without disagreements, for one basic reason: you're two different people, different histories, different personalities, different preferences. The goal isn't avoiding conflict, it's learning how to solve disagreements without turning them into arguments. In his early marriage, Chapman constantly argued with Carolyn. He thought his ideas were logical, she thought hers were. Neither was trying to hurt the other, but both were trying to win. It became a verbal battlefield. He eventually learned that resolving conflict isn't about talking, it's about listening. When disagreements arise, our natural instinct is defending our position, but this immediately creates an adversarial dynamic. Chapman teaches a simple but powerful alternative. Instead of saying "we need to talk," which puts people on the defensive, try saying, "when you have time, I'd like to hear your perspective on this." This one shift in wording changes the entire atmosphere, from confrontation to collaboration. His recommended process: one person shares their thoughts and feelings on the issue. The other person's only job is listening. Not rebutting, not defending, just genuinely understanding. You can ask clarifying questions like, "So you're saying you feel," or "Help me understand why that matters so much to you." Once the first person feels fully heard and understood, you switch roles. At the end of this listening exercise, you haven't solved the problem yet, but you've achieved something far more important. You've affirmed each other's perspectives. You're no longer enemies trying to win an argument. You're partners, friends, looking for a solution together. From this place of mutual respect, you can now seek compromise. Chapman explains that compromise isn't a dirty word in marriage. It's necessary. It's about finding our way, not my way. There are 3 main paths to a solution. 1. Meeting in the middle, classic compromise, where you both give up a little to find something you can both live with. 2. Meeting on your side. After hearing each other out, one person decides to fully embrace the other's preference as an act of love. You see how important it is to them and choose their way with a positive attitude. 3. Meeting later. Sometimes you can't find a solution right away. You agree to disagree temporarily. Put the issue on hold and revisit it in a week or month, without letting it create tension. By learning this process of listening and respectful compromise, conflicts can actually strengthen your relationship rather than tear it apart. Of course, sometimes our conflicts aren't just disagreements. Sometimes we genuinely hurt each other. We say things we shouldn't. We act selfishly or unkindly. In those moments, the ability to apologize and forgive becomes one of the most critical skills for a healthy marriage. Chapman confesses that for years, he never apologized. Following the macho model of his father and screen heroes like John Wayne, he believed, real men don't apologize. After arguments with Carolyn, he'd just go silent. After a few hours or days, he'd start talking again, as if nothing happened, sweeping the hurt under the rug. But the barriers created by that hurt never disappeared. He learned that apologizing isn't weakness, it's strength. It's valuing the relationship more than your pride. But just like love, apologies have their own languages. Saying "I'm sorry" might not be enough if it's not your partner's primary apology language. Based on extensive research, Chapman and Jennifer Thomas identified 5 apology languages. 1. Expressing regret, "I'm sorry." This acknowledges the emotional pain you caused. Not just the words "I'm sorry," but specifying what you're sorry for. "I'm sorry I raised my voice. I know that hurt you." The person needing this wants to know, "Do you understand how much you hurt me?" 2. Accepting responsibility, "I was wrong." This goes beyond regret. It's admitting your behavior was wrong, without excuses. "What I did was wrong. There's no excuse." For this person, anything less than admitting fault feels insincere. 3. Making restitution. This is about trying to make things right. The underlying question is, what can I do to make it up to you? The person needing this wants to see your love in action. They want to know if you still love them enough to fix the damage. 4. Genuinely repenting, desiring to change. This apology language focuses on the future. It's creating a plan to prevent the same mistake. "I don't want to do this again. Can we talk about what I can do differently next time?" This shows sincerity through commitment to change. 5. Requesting forgiveness, "Will you forgive me?" For some, an apology isn't complete until you ask for forgiveness. This places power back in their hands. It acknowledges you've created a debt and need them to release you from it. Learning your partner's apology language makes forgiveness much easier. And what is forgiveness? Chapman explains forgiveness isn't a feeling. It's a choice. It's deciding to pardon the offense, remove the barrier, and not hold it against your partner anymore. It doesn't mean forgetting. Our brains don't work that way. Hurtful memories may resurface. But when they do, You can remind yourself, "That's been forgiven. I won't dwell on it." Forgiveness also doesn't automatically rebuild trust. Trust is earned back over time through consistent, trustworthy behavior. But forgiveness opens the door to rebuilding that trust. Without apology and forgiveness, relationships slowly die under the weight of unresolved hurt. Now let's shift from emotional skills to the nitty-gritty of daily life. This brings us to a chapter with a humorous but deeply important title: Toilets Are Not Self-Cleaning. Chapman shares a story from early in his marriage. About 3 weeks after the wedding, he noticed their apartment toilet getting stained. He mentioned it to Carolyn, who replied, "I know. I was wondering when you were going to clean it." He was shocked. "Clean it? I thought you were going to clean it. I don't even know how to clean a toilet." This small, silly conflict highlights a huge stress source in modern marriages: confusion over roles and responsibilities. In past generations, roles were often clearly defined. Today, with most couples both working, the question of who does what is a major area for negotiation. We enter marriage with unstated expectations based on our family upbringing, personal philosophies, and our own skills and preferences. If your father always vacuumed, you might expect your husband to do the same. If his mother did all the cooking, he might be surprised if you ask him to make dinner. If you don't discuss these expectations before marriage, you're headed for a series of small but frustrating conflicts over everything from laundry to trash. Chapman's advice is simple and practical. Before marriage, make a list. Sit down separately and write every single task required to run a household: cooking, cleaning, shopping, paying bills, car maintenance, yard work, everything. Next to each item, put the initials of who you assume will primarily handle it. Then, compare your lists. Where you agree is great. Where you disagree, those are your negotiation points. If you can't agree on these before marriage, what makes you think you'll magically agree after? Deciding these roles isn't about being rigid or old-fashioned. It's about working as a team. It's about clarity, communication, and preventing resentment from building over a dirty toilet. And there's another area where lack of planning can lead to disaster: money. For many couples, finances become a battlefield. Chapman and his wife were no different. In their early student years, they had no money, so no money problems. The struggles started when they began earning, because they had very different ideas about spending. The foundational principle for handling money in marriage is adopting the mindset of our money, not my money and your money. This applies to income, savings, and even debt. If you're not ready for that level of unity, you're not ready for marriage. Chapman proposes a simple, effective framework called the 10th of October 80 plan. Save 10%. The first 10% of your net income goes into savings and investments. This builds an emergency fund, helps pay off debt, and allows saving for major purchases. Give 10%. The next 10% goes to giving, charities, your church, or causes you believe in. Chapman believes giving fosters gratitude and brings deep satisfaction. Live on 80%. The remaining 80% covers all living expenses: housing, utilities, food, transportation, insurance, recreation, everything. The key is creating a budget, a spending plan, for that 80% and sticking to it. One of the biggest mistakes young couples make is buying a house they can't afford, which squeezes every other area of their budget. He also issues a strong warning about credit cards. The buy now, pay later mindset has trapped millions. It encourages impulse buying and quickly leads to mountains of high-interest debt. His advice? Save up and pay cash for non-essentials. On major purchases, Agree on a dollar amount, say $100, above which neither makes a purchase without consulting the other and reaching agreement. Creating a financial plan together before marriage is one of the most powerful things you can do to build a stable, peaceful future. Just as financial intimacy requires planning and communication, so does sexual intimacy. This brings us to another crucial lesson. Mutual sexual fulfillment isn't automatic. Like many young men, Chapman assumed that because he and Carolyn were physically attracted to each other, the sexual part of their marriage would naturally be wonderful for both. He knew almost nothing about female sexuality and soon discovered that what was heavenly for him wasn't always heavenly for her. He shares several vital insights he wishes he'd known. First, for men, sex is often focused on the physical act. For women, it's connected to the overall relationship. If the relationship is strained due to harsh words or unresolved conflict, she'll find it very difficult to be sexually interested. As Chapman puts it, for many women, sex begins in the kitchen, not the bedroom. If he's speaking her love language throughout the day, helping with chores, offering words of affirmation, spending quality time, she'll feel emotionally connected and far more open to physical intimacy. Second, foreplay is incredibly important to women. Men tend to become aroused much more quickly. Women often need more time. The tender touches, kisses, and intimacy of foreplay bring her to the point of desiring intercourse. Rushing this can leave her feeling used and unfulfilled. Third, communication is the key that unlocks sexual fulfillment. In a culture saturated with sex, it's amazing how many married couples never learn to talk about it. The only way to know what's pleasurable or uncomfortable for your partner is to ask and listen. He suggests a powerful monthly question for the first year of marriage. What could I do or not do that would make the sexual part of our marriage better for you? Finally, he addresses past sexual experiences. Our culture promotes the idea that sexual experience before marriage prepares you for it. Chapman says research shows the exact opposite. Past experiences can create psychological barriers and comparisons. He strongly advises dealing with sexual histories before marriage. Honesty is critical. If you hide your past, it'll almost certainly surface later, and the deception will often be more damaging than the history itself. Now let's zoom out from the couple to the wider circle of relationships. Chapman reminds us, you're not just marrying a person, you're marrying into a family. After the honeymoon, your in-laws don't disappear. For better or worse, they're part of your life. This can be a wonderful source of support or a significant source of stress. Issues over holidays, family traditions, expectations, and different beliefs are common. His parents want you there for Christmas Day, so do hers. Her family has a long-standing 4th of July tradition, so does his. His mother keeps offering unsolicited cooking advice. Her father gives financial advice you don't agree with. How do you navigate this? The same communication principles that work within your marriage apply here. 1. Listen empathetically. Seek to understand their perspective before sharing your own. Why is that holiday so important? What emotions are behind their tradition? 2. Speak for yourself. Use I statements instead of you statements. Instead of "you're always trying to control us," try "I feel overwhelmed when we discuss finances." This avoids blame and invites conversation. 3. Negotiate differences. Look for win-win solutions. Maybe alternate holidays each year. Maybe set loving boundaries, like asking them to call before visiting. Negotiation is about requests, not demands. 4. Learn their love language. When your in-laws feel genuinely loved and appreciated by you, it creates a positive atmosphere where working through differences becomes much easier. Developing a healthy relationship with extended family takes effort, but it's a crucial investment in your marriage's long-term health. Related to this is another area where differences can cause deep conflict: spirituality. Chapman points out that spirituality isn't the same as simply going to church. Many couples, like Jill and Matt in his example, think they're on the same page because they both identify as Christian and attend church while dating. But after the wedding, Matt reveals he finds church boring and feels closer to God on the golf course. Jill is devastated. For her, church community is a non-negotiable part of her faith. Spirituality runs deep. It shapes our values, our worldview, and how we make major life decisions. Chapman, who holds degrees in anthropology, notes that every culture in human history has had some form of religious belief. It's a fundamental part of who we are. Therefore, he says it's essential for couples to have deep conversations about spiritual beliefs before marriage. Are your core beliefs compatible? Don't just ask, "Do you believe in God?" Ask, "What does God mean to you? How does that belief affect your daily life? What role will faith play in our family? How will we raise our children?" Being yoked together in marriage with someone marching to a different spiritual drummer can create profound and painful conflict. Ignoring these differences, hoping they'll work themselves out, is a sign of immaturity. Finally, we arrive at one of the most subtle but powerful forces in any relationship: personality. Chapman wishes he'd known that personality profoundly influences behavior. He dreamed of romantic breakfasts with his wife every morning. After marriage, he discovered Carolyn didn't do mornings. She, on the other hand, envisioned late nights filled with deep conversation and shared activities. She didn't realize his brain effectively shut down at 10 p.m. He was a morning person. She was a night person. This isn't a flaw in either of them. It's a fundamental difference in their wiring. A morning person will never truly become a night person, and vice versa. Understanding and accepting this difference, then negotiating a solution, is the key. Chapman highlights several other common personality clashes. The optimist and the pessimist. One sees possibilities, the other sees problems. This can lead to conflicts over everything, from taking risks to managing money. The neatnik and the slob one lives by a place for everything, and everything in its place. The other leaves a trail of clutter. This can be a source of constant daily irritation if not addressed. The babbling brook and the Dead Sea. The babbling brook processes life by talking. They share everything. The Dead Sea is more introspective and can be perfectly content in silence. One can feel unheard, while the other feels overwhelmed. The organizer and the free spirit. The organizer plans every vacation detail months in advance. The free spirit decides to go to the beach instead of the mountains the night before leaving. In early dating, these differences often seem attractive. The passive person admires the aggressor's drive. The logical professor is charmed by the intuitive dancer. But after marriage, these same traits can become major conflict sources, if not understood and respected. The solution isn't trying to change your partner. You can't. The solution is understanding each other's personality, accepting it, and learning how to work together as a team, using your different strengths to complement each other. Chapman strongly encourages couples to take a personality profile assessment before marriage. The insight you gain can be one of the most valuable investments you ever make. As we step back and look at these 12 powerful lessons from Gary Chapman, a single unifying theme emerges. It's both incredibly simple and profoundly challenging. A successful marriage isn't something you find. It's something you build. In a world that often treats love like a magical force that should carry us effortlessly into happily ever after, Chapman's message is a healthy dose of reality. He gently but firmly pulls back the curtain on the fairy tale to show us the actual blueprint of real, lasting love. The central lesson? Feelings are wonderful, but they're fickle. A marriage built on feelings is a house built on sand. A marriage built on skills, conscious choices, and mutual understanding is a house built on rock. What I find most powerful about this book is its relentless practicality. Chapman doesn't just give us theories, he gives us tools. He doesn't just tell us what to do, he shows us how. The 10th of October 80 financial plan, the 5 apology languages, the exercise for defining household roles, these aren't abstract concepts. They're tangible, actionable strategies couples can start using today. He transforms the overwhelming idea of working on a marriage into a series of small, manageable steps. And that's where the true beauty of his wisdom lies. He demystifies marriage. He takes it out of the realm of luck and fate and places it firmly in our hands. He teaches us that a great marriage isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about learning how to love an imperfect person perfectly. It's about becoming the right partner, not just finding one. So how can we start applying this wisdom right now in our own lives and relationships? Let me offer 3 simple actions inspired by the book. First, have a roles and responsibilities conversation. Even if you're not planning a wedding tomorrow, this is powerful. Take Chapman's advice. Both make a list of household tasks and who you assume would do them. Comparing those lists will reveal your hidden expectations in a way nothing else can. It's a conversation that can prevent 1,000 future arguments. Second, commit to becoming a student of your partner's love language. Don't just guess. Ask them. Observe them. What do they complain about most? What do they request most often? Once you have a good idea, make a conscious effort for 1 week to speak their language every single day. If it's acts of service, do a chore without being asked. If it's words of affirmation, leave them a note about what you admire. Watch what happens. It can be transformative. Third, practice empathetic listening in your next disagreement. The next time conflict arises, resist the urge to defend your position. Instead, make it your mission to understand the other person's perspective. Say, "Help me understand why you feel that way." Listen without interrupting. Summarize what you heard to make sure you got it right. You'll be amazed at how this simple shift can diffuse tension and turn a fight into a problem-solving session. Ultimately, Things I Wish I'd Known Before We Got Married is a book of profound hope. It tells us the marriage of our dreams isn't out of reach. It's not reserved for a lucky few. It's available to anyone willing to be humble enough to learn, courageous enough to be honest, and committed enough to do the work. The journey isn't always easy, but as Chapman shows us, with the right tools and a willing heart, you can build a love that truly lasts a lifetime. That was a summary of Things I Wish I'd Known Before We Got Married by Gary Chapman. We've explored the highlights today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only take you so far. The real magic happens when you read the book yourself. It's in those quiet moments when a particular story or simple phrase connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This overview is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time and attention. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you see yourself, your partner, and the beautiful possibility of a lifelong partnership. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue exploring the world's most impactful books. By subscribing, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.